a new guest, Tony from the Geek Getaway, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Tony,
Yep,
Tony TGD,
yep,
whatever.
yep. Thank you for coming on, and well, let's just talk about what brought you here in the first place. I saw your video with and was Young Ripper, not West, but talking about Young Ripper, and all of this stuff was about tokenism and all that. And uh, why do you think it's gotten this bad? Do you think it's just been a bunch of sheep following a grifter? Or do you think it's a people just want to be confirmation bias in their outrage, or all of the above?
Oh, I think it's a hearty combination of all the above. You got one guy who's trying to appeal to a certain audience. He knows what he needs to say to get them to be riled up. You got an audience that wants to be riled up, and
Hmm.
you got a YouTube who's willing to engage and allow this to happen. So it's a
Yeah,
perfect storm.
it really is. But the funny thing is that a lot of these people used to be fans. I've known a number of these people that have done. I see in the comments and all that stuff. They used to be legit fans, and it feels like these days it's like they just want to be outraged. They're not. You start to question if they ever were fans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line between fan and fanatic, and
Yeah,
I think some of these people have crossed that line.
definitely. Because I mean, how long have you been in comics? In the comics or this media?
Oof. Well, I'm 40 years old, so I've been in the comics since
I'm
at least I've been
36.
5.
Yep, I'm 36, so I'm about the same. Although I really got into it and when I was 18, but
Yeah,
always had a comic book in my hand since I was 6. So
I think
yeah, yeah.
for me, my father's been into comics ever since I was little, so I've pretty much grown up with it.
Right. So, but it's about so obvious. And what would you say you've been more into? Marvel, DC, Indies, all of them.
DC is not really my thing. I've been into Marvel.
I've been more into DC to be honest. More, but I do. I always say this. I have a summer home in Marvel. That's how I like to look at it as where I know so much about Marvel, but I don't know everything. Nor am I the type of person who want to dive into everything. Especially these days. I'll be honest. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, I kind of checked out of comics probably about 2005, I would say, somewhere around
2005.
then.
So a bit before Civil War started.
Yeah,
Yeah, but if you,
mostly due to
I,
around where I live, the local comic shops all closed up, and
ah, but you have kept an eye on it, I assume, right? For you, and everything with how comics have been going, and just because I'll be honest, I've been around since actually I can say I dove into around 2003 ish is when I dived in full time, and I'll say this: I did notice at times where there are moments, for example, where Marvel would not give you an option. I think it's a better way of putting it. They would change the characters up all at once, and you're told to deal with it. Which I think even you have to admit, as far as saying it to a longtime fan, that is pretty much giving you the bird, saying "Screw you guys, you're not who we're going for." Correct? Would you at least agree with that?
I can understand that take, but I mean,
Yeah.
you got to realize that comics are a dying medium. They've been a dying medium
Oh
since the
yeah.
'80s.
Oh, I
They
agree
know
with
that
that.
they know that longtime fans, you're invested, you're there. They got
Hmm.
you, you're hooked in. So they're trying to get new fans, trying to get new people in. So I mean, they've been doing this forever. I mean, in the '90s, they came out with all those young heroes, slapstick,
True.
Dark Hawk.
But
You
they
know,
didn't replace heroes, though. I think that's the big thing, though. They came up with new characters, but they didn't try to say, this is the new version of the character you've loved, and if you don't like it, and I didn't see as much as a lot of people like to claim, but I did see, maybe not from the creators themselves, but from the people who are the new fans saying, you're a bunch of istophobes.
oh
I'm not saying this with the creators. I would see it from the new fans who be telling the old fans, "You're a bunch of old fuddy duddies." GTFO. We're in charge now.
yeah, but the new fans, they're young kids. That's how they talk. That's how they are. But I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
going back to what I said in the '90s when they introduced all those new characters,
Mm-hmm.
what like one actually made it out of there alive and intact. So I
Oh
think
yeah.
they've seen what happened. They go, well, if we keep all the old characters around, no one's going to gravitate towards the new characters. It's just the way
Hmm.
it is. So we got to get rid of the new guys. We got to get rid of the old guys rather to get the new guys in.
Yeah, but it's all. But there's a reason why people came to those new guys. Is all I say. Now, I say this when they brought Miles in, he was at his best when he was in the Ultimate Universe because most people agreed. Peter died, but you still have a mainstream Peter, and Miles flourished. I think the problem started when they brought him into the mainline universe, where it's like he didn't have anything to make him unique anymore.
Yeah, but see, I think a lot of things. I'll agree with you on those points, but I think
Yep.
you have to look beyond what you're seeing. You have to look at the reasons. If the Ultimate Universe was dying and you have a
Oh
popular
yeah.
character like Miles, what are you going to do? There's no alternative. Either you
Oh
kill
yeah.
him off or bring him
Completely
over.
agree. Completely agree with that. But I get it. Again, basically I think they saw it as a yeah, we're bailing on the Ultimate Universe. Well, let's bring the best character with us. But in doing so, like I said, it basically that's why they've been struggling so much. But then you've also led to a lot of people want to say he's the real Spider-Man, just like they want to say Laura Kenny's the real Wolverine. Who cares about Logan? Now, to be fair, a lot of that came from Tom Taylor trolling the people who complained, but I think he's embraced it a bit too much now where he's had a bunch of people who take him seriously. And I don't mean the people who are arguing. I'm talking about those who are fans of the work who are now taking him seriously and saying, yeah, who cares about Logan? Laura's the real Wolverine. Logan is the old Wolverine and he's not even Wolverine anymore or whatever. It's like that's the problem when you try to cater, you try to put on a performance and you get the wrong type of people, when the wrong reaction, but you don't want to back out of it. Again,
Yeah,
I get what they're going for. I do get it.
well, I think part of the reason, part of the problem is that creators, comic book writers, artists, they used to be nobodies. I didn't know who they were growing up in the
Oh,
'80s. I didn't
yeah.
know. So I didn't care what they said. I don't think anybody cared what the guy coloring Wolverine had to say about
Unless you
Spider-Man.
met at a convention, then.
Yeah, well, if you're a super uber nerd,
Yeah.
but the uber nerd has become the regular nerd now, and everybody cares what the guy who writes the story says and what his political
Mm-hmm.
leanings are, and I think all
Hey,
that
don't get
stuff
me
gets
started on that
retarded.
one. But and the thing is though, and here's my biggest beef when I see a lot of these complaints is it's not so much when they talk about the current books. The current books I can see somewhat when you have some writers who have shown disinterest in the characters, or they are, or as I prefer to look at it, they've been assigned to these books. They don't know how to write the characters, so they're going with, and they have editors who are overworked, overstressed, and underpaid enough as it is. They're not going to help them, so they're just going to write what they know. I can understand that when you see some new creators doing the stuff they've done. But when you start having people who are complaining now, retroactively saying stuff like John Stewart was a tokenism, She-Hulk is a tokenism, it's like you don't even know what the word tokenism means, and you're changing the context of why they were created in the first place. Spider Woman and She-Hulk were created so they can hold the license, and they ended up becoming good characters.
Yeah, I think, like you said, retroactively going back and trying to claim things without context is really just a grift. It's just a grift. There's no other way around it. I mean,
Yeah,
tokenism, as I said in the video, it's something that's been around from at least the '60s. Dr. Martin Luther King
but
talks about it in his book Tokenism. Uh,
yeah,
so it has a definition. It has a clear, dictionary. This is what it means, and this is how it
exactly.
fits. I mean, Young Ripa for his uh, audience, he wants to change it up, but really what it means is it has to be a unimportant character
Yeah, a
that's
walk on.
created specifically to pander to diversity. Now, Ripa, when he's using tokenism, what he really means is pandering. Yeah, it's true. They do
Mm.
pander to certain groups. But that
Oh,
doesn't
you have
make the character a
pandering,
token.
and you just have the bending, the race and gender bending, and all that stuff. You have the bending of characters as well. Up. I've got some friends of mine. Yeah, two of my friends, Nerdad and Bianca, both saying got work, but came to show support. Thank you, lovely ladies, for stopping on by. Great to see you too.
Yeah, they can always
Um,
watch the replay. We'll be here for a while.
yep, yep. But yeah, but yeah, just because I mean, I have, you can see it from my comic collection right behind me, and all that, how big of a comic book fan I am. And I'll say this, say what you will about the changing of a characters, their race and everything. There are some been cases where it's been worse, like Teen Tony, anyone? where you're like, what was even the point of that?
Yeah, I think you
Uh,
know,
yeah.
like I was saying, they are pandering to certain audiences. They're trying to get a
Hmm.
certain new person into comics, getting people who don't read comics to try to
Yeah.
pick them up. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
Oh
I
no,
mean,
definitely not.
and you got to realize, and I was talking to someone about this last night. I said, when you're used to being in the majority, when you're used to
Hmm.
having special treatment, equality now seems like oppression.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of times people use that towards feminism. Like they'll be like, "Oh, they think that we're treating them equal, so now they feel oppressed because they're getting the same treatment." And a lot of these people that are complaining, they're feeling that same thing. When you're
Hmm.
used to every character being a white male, and
Exactly.
suddenly there's one or two black males or a female or a gay guy, and you're like, "Oh my god, it's they're getting rid of us." It's not.
Yeah.
You
Now
know?
there are some cases where I would say this, like, would I want to see a black Clark Kent? No, mostly because we got two good alternatives. You got Val Zod and you have Calvin Ellis. And now Calvin Ellis is an alternate Clark Kent that's black, but he has a different name. And I feel like, stuff like that. They come up with good alternatives for that. Again, Miles. Miles is not Black Peter, even though I hate how people claim he is. He's not. He's very much very different, and it's that they want to say, "Oh, you mean Blackwash Peter? Get out of here!"
Yeah, I mean,
Now there are cases I would say of it. Here's the thing: when you have a bunch of the replacement characters, more times than not, there's a story behind why they do it, even if it's not done very well. Like Amadeus Cho as Hulk. There was a story behind that. Lady Thor. There was a story behind it. The only one I could ever think of that had no story behind it but was done anyway and tried to make it look permanent was Riri. Riri had no story. There was no story that came about while she was the new Iron Man. It was just her running around trying to introduce this new character, and then by the end, oh, Tony happens to be back. That is where I would say I would have an example of, okay, points all around. It was poorly executed and definitely what it looks down upon, is a bad example of a legacy character story.
yeah. But
Yeah.
here's the thing: all those examples you gave, not a single one
Hmm.
of them is tokenism,
No,
as
I
full
agree with that.
definition.
Oh, and I agree with that. Riri is not a token character. She's an annoyance, I would say that, at least until Eve Ewing took over writing her. But especially because I have autism, I did not like how people were trying to say, "Oh, she has autism." I'm like, no, no, autism does not mean you want to have your teacher give you, repress you, intentionally repress you, just so you can have something to fight against, even though it's no longer needed. That's not autism.
What's funny about that whole story is if you look at it from a different perspective, the story
Hmm.
basically admits that black people are no longer being racially targeted by the
Hmm.
teachers and stuff. And it's actually a positive story if you look at it from the angle of, hey, they're acknowledging that these people, they used to be really, really oppressed in school. Now they're no longer. And she's so far ahead of everybody that she
Hmm.
feels the need to have this in order to succeed in life.
And I don't know what
But
that
they
says.
don't look at it from that angle. They look at it from, oh my God, this is a terrible
Oh,
character that wants to be oppressed because she needs it to be a victim.
I mean, okay, that is a good way of looking at it. I never saw of it that way. That is actually an interesting way of looking at it. But again, it's once you have the autism connection that really kind of, when people, and they said, I'm like, no, you
Yeah,
know, because like
the
I
the
said, I have,
autism
yeah,
thing. Uh,
yeah.
whenever a character is smart, too smart, I mean, they
Mm.
everyone wants to automatically say it must be autism. Autism in
Or as an insult, they want to use it as an
yeah,
insult, like was done with you from Ripa.
yeah. When it comes to entertainment, autism is the quick and easy way to go. Oh, really smart.
But at least the Power Rangers reboot movie got it much closer than most.
I didn't see that movie. I wanted to watch it, but I haven't seen
Oh,
it yet.
I have. The billionaire, he definitely felt like he was just socially awkward, very smart, but kind of shy about it. Kind of, basically everything you would see about for someone with autism, high functioning autism, and it was done very well. They actually did their research into it.
Mm. Like I said, I haven't seen it. I need to see it. I wanted to watch it. Huge
It's
Power Ranger fan growing up.
oh, so am I. I am a huge one as well, and I mean, I've been on and off ever since Time Force. I've been on and off, but I've been enjoying more than what more than there's been more good than bad, if you ask me.
Yeah, I'm an old man who shouldn't be watching Power Rangers, but still enjoys it.
Exactly,
Uh,
that's exactly how I feel. It's one of those things where you're a huge diehard fan. It's like, well, like the stuff with the He-Man stuff. Oh, good God! Don't get the fact that was that's when really trying. I was able to tolerate so much of the stuff in this community until their complaints about the Master of the Universe Revelations, where I'm defending it. I'm saying I don't see it that way, and I have people basically saying you're not a real fan, even though I have all the toys at my parents' house. But I've had so many of the toys. I got so many of the comics. I've seen so many of the shows. Not a fan because they don't agree. I don't agree with them.
yeah, I've had the same criticism. I love the new Revelations. I think it's a
I mean, I have my
masterclass.
issues. I do have my issues. I did think Tilo was a bit too much of a bitch. Poorly written bitch, I should say. Poorly written, when she was
Well,
a bitch.
I didn't see it like that. My take was you have a character who is very much in love with He Man.
Adam, with that,
No, she's
yeah,
in love
with
with He Man. Remember, at the beginning she's in love with He Man. She doesn't realize that
true.
Adam is
His
He Man.
teammate. You're right. You're right.
And if you watch the old cartoon from the '80s, Tila was
Yeah, yeah.
always
She was the
telling
lowest. She was the lowest.
no, but she was always telling like Adam to like, oh, go to the castle. You're a weak nerd. Get out of here. You're gonna get hurt.
Exactly. Well, she cared for him though too.
Right.
She does care for Adam.
But she cared for him like a little brother. Now she's finally realized that this weak nerd was the one who was protecting her the whole time, keeping her
Mm.
safe. And the whole shock of it all was like, oh my god, I've been
In
treated
conjunction to her
so
failing. Yep. Sorry. In conjunction to her failing to save him.
right. And so all those emotions come out, and now you got the king yelling at her, telling her, blaming her, and she's got the guilt and all this stuff, and then so she fucking acted like a bitch. She had
Oh
an
yeah.
emotional outburst.
True, but I think it's more the stuff in the the present day. There were just some stuff, like especially when she met up with him, and he said, "I died," and she basically still acted, snippy towards him. That I felt like, okay, we could have reined in a little bit there, writers, a little. But again, I'm not going to complain too much. I still got good enjoyment out of it. I really liked it, but here's something else I've realized. When you look at Arcane, the recent Arcane stuff, show came out of nowhere. But when you look at it, there's some strong writing in it, but there's some elements in there that I could have seen if they had if they had announced this earlier, and they had an insider in there who would have given them any of the usual suspect YouTube channels would have said we have an insider who said that there's this and that in the writing. You knew then they would have built up and would have hated it no matter how good it was. But the fact that there was no build up, there was no pre-fabricated hatred to for all this. People are loving it for the good writing that it is.
I've heard good things. I haven't seen it myself, but I have heard good things.
Yeah, but I mean, but you get what I'm saying? Is this preemptive hatred that they build up from the moment production starts?
Oh yeah, that's how they make their money. They can make about 50 videos before it starts, 50 videos when it comes out, and 50 videos after it's over.
And everyone is so wound up to hate something that there's no. It would have been a masterpiece. They would have hated it still.
Let me give you an example. I've seen there's a movie called Enola Holmes. It's based on a book where what if
Okay.
Sherlock Holmes has a sister, right? There
Oh
was so
yes, I'm
much
aware of
hate.
that.
There was so much hate around it, right? And I seen someone reviewing, and they said, "Well, I haven't even seen the movie. I'm just basing this off the trailer." I said, "You haven't even seen the movie. How can you hate the movie? How can you even review it or say what's in the movie if you haven't seen it?"
Funny thing in a similar regard. I was having a stream with some friends, and one of which is Tavia in the chat right now, and we were talking about it, and we had one of the other people I've had in my comments saying, "Hey, I won our bet." Which bet was that? That there was He-Man would only appear in 2 episodes in this, and then we counted it up and like, no, he was in 3. Then he eventually said, "Oh well, I didn't even watch it anyway. I don't want to watch it. I'm just going off of what Yellow Flash told me." It's like you're saying you want to bet with me that we made when you haven't even watched it. You're just going off of what you were told.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where they act like, oh, I don't need to. Why should I? Why would they lie? Because they want you to hate it.
Because that's how they make their money. If they lie to you, you get angry, you click their video, they make their money.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have the fact that they still say Clownfish was right, even though they had to change it. Like they kept on saying, "Oh, Tila Alora is going to be a lesbian," and then eventually once it came out, like, "Oh, we weren't saying lesbians; they could be just close friends." Like you were saying lesbians, or they're saying He-Man's going to step aside, all right? And then it's like he didn't step aside; he died. Oh, that's the same thing. Quit moving the goalposts, you guys.
Yeah, I mean, the whole show, the premise is what happens when He Man's no longer around. It's
Exactly.
you got to watch it in one consider it one long episode, almost like a movie.
Yeah.
And if you look at it from
Exactly.
that perspective, it's actually it holds up really well. It's
Now, I
very
will. Yep. Sorry, I was say I will say this though. I think they would have had a lot of the steam taken out of them if it was all released at once and not in half.
yeah, I agree with that. But I'm saying
That
like
was the problem. Yeah.
as one whole complete thing, it's really well. It holds up. It pays
Hmm.
homage to the comics. It pays homage to the old toys, to the 2000 series. I mean, it's got lots of Easter eggs in there, lots of things, lots of little
Yep.
points. And I mean, then they're willing to let people die. They're willing to kill off characters and do things that
Mm.
you're like. When you're a kid, you're like, oh, they're never gonna kill this guy. And they're like, they fucking
Oh
run a
yeah.
sword. Spoiler alert: they run a sword through the sorceress, and you're like, oh shit, fucking killed that
Yep.
kid.
Or they even rip out the souls from Ram Man and no, not Ram Man, from
Fisto.
Fisto, and yeah, and then they're like, I'm sending them to Subternia. Oh yeah, and then they wipe out Praeternia.
Yeah, I mean, it goes everywhere. It gives you everything you ever wanted, and then they're still complaining
Oh
because you know what? They say Kevin Smith wasn't a fan. I'm gonna say that those people were not actual He-Man fans.
yeah,
Anyone
because
complaining, not a He-Man fan.
like I said, the main reason why I give the biggest defense for Revelations is because of the fact that the one of the guys involved, Rob David, he was the main man behind the DC comics of the past couple of years. And so you know the guy knows what he's doing. He's basically the perfect guy for guiding He-Man unfiltered, unrestrained, which is what those comics were. But even those comics, they had examples of stuff that were worse than in Revelations. Like, they think Teal was a bitch in Revelations. Keith Giffen made her an even more insufferable bitch. It took Dan Abnett with Rob David's influence to finally mellow her out. Or they made Orko just plain evil, and then they had to rework a explanation to say, oh, he wasn't evil. He was corrupted by Horde Prime's skull.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the way they handled Orko. He's not the silly nothing that he was in the old cartoon. He's a little more mature. He's a little better.
Yeah. Well, I think he's more like it's the full, the logical conclusion to take Orko, where he's been such a screw up, and then when things finally get dark, he's just like, what have I been doing with my life?
Yeah, uh, I do remember. I think in the original He-Man, they kind of told you that Orko screwed up because magic works differently on
Oh,
Eternia than
yeah.
home planet or something.
Yeah, and they kind of ignore that for this to give it something a different reason. But I understand. I think, like I said, I like both explanations. Oh, and Evil Lynn. I adore. I feel so bad for her because people say like, "Oh, but she did this and then they forgave her," because her mind snapped. Her mind utterly snapped from the realization that Skeletor showed her the entire universe, and then he thinks, "Isn't it glorious?" And she's just like, "It's a lot of nothing." Like after
Yeah,
all this time of singing, there's been some grand plan, someone out there at the edge of the universe manipulating things, and find out it's just a bunch of stars. I've been putting up through all this crap in my life for a bunch of stars out at the edge of the universe. I think anyone would snap.
I mean, they get a little philosophical. I think people miss kind of the point of
Hmm.
the show and everything.
Yeah, because again, all they want is He-Man, Skeletor, boom, 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 and oh, yep, Tila, you're the sorcerer's daughter, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, this is a logical progression for the show, a logical step forward. I hope they make
Exactly.
more. I'm looking forward to
Oh,
it.
especially with that ending with Hordak. Now here's the
Yeah,
big question: do you think they're going to do something with She-Ra, or do you think they just have the right to the Horde?
I if I remember correctly, I think the Horde was technically a He-Man
Yeah, it was
property.
that they tossed over to She-Ra, but it's been so tightly connected to She-Ra that you can't really seem to have. There's nothing. You'd have nothing else without the Horde.
Yeah, I mean they could always introduce like they did in the original. She was a daughter that was swept away over to the other world.
Mm-hmm.
They could say that Hordak using She-Ra as sort of a conduit to find the Eternia plane of
True.
existence.
Or you can go with her being Despera and she's invading Eternia.
Yeah, I mean there's so many ways that you can go with that,
Yeah,
and it would be
but
interesting to see what they do if they do bring She-Ra.
yep. Now, if there's any one thing I did not like, but that was because that's more because of by it being a continuation of the '80s cartoon. I'm not a fan of Skeletor not being Keldor. I get why they did it here because he wasn't Keldor in the original show, but I always felt that Keldor Skeletor was one of the most endearing sides of the later He-Man stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, in what was it, like the 2000 series where they
Oh
showed you
yeah,
him turning into Skeletor and all that.
yeah,
That
his
little
face
interesting
melting for a
wrinkle.
second. Yeah,
Yeah, him being
yeah,
Keldor is an interesting wrinkle, an interesting little uncle versus nephew type thing.
exactly. And well, one other thing is, I hope they bring the Snake Men in at some point. I really want the Snake Men, King
Oh
Hiss
yeah,
and the Snake Men, because they keep on teasing it. They always keep on teasing it, and then they don't do it.
yeah. I think what the 2000 series was the only one that really went heavy on the Snake Man. I loved it. I love the
And the
Snake Man.
comics, and the recent comics, where it turns out at some point King Randor was replaced by King Hiss, completely killed off.
Damn,
Yeah.
I haven't kept up with the comics.
Oh yeah, it was so good once Dan Abnett took over and he was following from the plot from Rob David, where yeah, basically they go on a journey and eventually at some point Adam and Randor separate. Then when they meet up again, eventually he's revealed as King Hiss, and he throws the big whammy of, do you like you'll never the best part is you'll never know. What, have I only been King Randor since we separated, or was I Randor on the day you were born?
Ooh,
Yeah, that's the type of stuff you're like, dude. Now, here's something else I would say though:
uh,
the big hypocrisy of it all. They complain about Allura, this character who I don't care if it's Miss knew who she was. I doubt they. I bet you they just throw the name from the hat or whatever to use it. They're saying like, oh, but she was white. In like, yeah, the Starline comics, which were never canon, and she had only one prominent appearance in. But like, oh, they were white and they race better. They just dwell on that. Yet when the CGI cartoon comes out and they race ban Tila and kind of combine it with the sorceress, eh, like,
yeah,
and I've had Liana K on before, and she gave me a good theory. She thinks it's because the Reddit crowd loved the CGI show and just ignore that stuff. And so you have a bunch of the YouTubers who are catering to their Reddit fans, and so they're like, "Oh man, our Reddit fans are loving it. We better not dump on it then."
well, yeah, that's always they look to see where the hate is coming from, where the hate's directed at, and that's what they cater to.
Even if it makes them look like a bunch of hypocrites.
Well, they don't care because uh, those people, the individuals we're talking about, they just plow forward. They don't care if they look like a hypocrite if they've proven to be wrong. They just
They
claim
just ignore
victory,
it.
keep going. Yeah, they just ignore it.
Yeah, that's what they've noticed. If they're ever proven wrong, they never admit it. They never own up to it. They just move on and act like it never happened. And eventually, a bunch of their viewers have the attention span of goldfish. It never happened. And even when people bring it up that they did it, whatever, moving on. That's not what they're saying now this week.
Yeah, and you're taking it out of context. What you did was you took what they said out of context. Like, no, I
No,
said
that's exactly what
exactly
they
what
said.
was said. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the stuff with Ripa saying how, oh, I was using tokenism before it was in the dictionary. What?
Yeah, and then he claimed that I misrecollected what he said.
Yeah, you showed it right there. I was using it before it was in the dictionary. What? How do you misrecollect that? I just,
Like I said,
I
that's just them. They ignore it. They'll plow forward. They'll pretend, and their fans will just go along with it because they want to be angry.
They just want to be angry. And this is why I said it's like so many times I've also seen it where they say like, "Oh, this never happened with a character," and I'd be like, because with my expansion knowledge, I'd be like, "Yeah, it has. Maybe not to the prominence that's going on now, but it has happened before." It's like here's one of my arguments with Jason Aaron's Lady Thor. Technically, we had a Lady Thor during Dan Jurgens' run. It wasn't someone else wielding the power of Mjolnir, but there was a Lady Thor.
Yeah, well,
Completely different, I know, but I'm just saying when they act like, oh, there's never been a Lady Thor. Technically, you're wrong.
here's the thing with Thor. I mean, if you actually go back to the original Journey
Mm-hmm.
into the Mystery where he debuts, Thor is nothing more than a mantle. It's not actually. He doesn't when he finds that the hammer becomes Thor.
Yeah, Donald
He
Blake.
actually has the
Yeah.
same. He has the same personality as Don Blake. Donald Blake is Thor. He becomes Thor.
Until it was eventually revealed that he always was Thor, but that was a later reveal. A later
Right.
reveal that he was always Thor with his memories blocked, and that Donald Blake was just a cipher.
Right, but I'm saying in the original comic they show you that Donald Blake, when he transforms into Thor, he still has his Donald Blake memories. He doesn't have any Thor memories because he's not Thor. He's getting the
Yeah,
power of Thor.
that's why they did the what if. That's why they did the what if of what if Jane Foster picked up the hammer.
Right, and it's only until, like you said, years later, then they say, well, actually, when he strikes the staff, he goes away, and then Thor replaces his body, kind of like they did with Captain Marvel and Rick Jones.
Yeah, well, there's that, but there's also the fact that saying that even Donald Blake was technically Thor. He just didn't have the memories.
Yeah, and then they did the whole, well, Odin created Donald Blake based off another guy.
Yeah, and then
Donald Blake
they got rid of that and gave it to Beta Ray Bill, and then Thor stayed Thor forever until Eric Masterson, and then later until JMS's run.
Yeah, then you had the individual in the future. I forget what his name is. Drago,
Oh,
Dargo, something like that.
yeah,
He
something like
becomes
that.
Thor.
Yeah.
Then you got to remember Wonder Woman. She picked up the hammer in the crossover. And she got the power of
Oh
Thor.
God, that still pisses me off. Though they were basically implying that Storm could beat Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman needed the hammer to stop Storm. That was an insult to Wonder Woman. Even and she still lost, but the fact they implied that she could only win if she used Thor's hammer—that's an insult. That is beyond an insult.
Well, that whole to be fair, that whole comic, the matchups were really weird. It
Well,
wasn't
they
like
stacked them. They stacked them with what were the popular ones. Like you knew at that time, Storm was going to be outvoting Wonder Woman no matter what. They stacked the deck, and let's be honest, the fact that no way the hell could Ron Mars or Peter David be able to come up with a logical explanation of how Wolverine could beat Lobo, that they did it behind the bar.
yeah,
You remember that? It's just like nothing happens, and Wolverine comes out. It's like you couldn't even come up with a good explanation.
yeah. It was just a popularity contest. The matchups didn't make any sense.
Well, at
But,
least the ones that were voted on, the ones that were done by the creators, like Robin and Jubilee and all that, or I think when Batman and Cap was a actual creator one, it wasn't a voted on one.
yeah, but like the Hulk versus Superman. Regardless of what the vote said, Superman would kick the Hulk's ass. I love the
Well,
Hulk.
Superman won. Well, yeah, Superman did win.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like there was no even there's no
Yeah.
matchup. Superman can fly. He just fly up and just that's it. You
Now,
lost, bro.
yeah, now Superboy versus Spider Man. That one's a tricky one because this was a different Superboy with different abilities.
Yeah, but I
I do
mean,
like the idea it was clone versus clone.
was he revealed to be a clone at the time? I think wasn't that he still
It was still part of the
technically.
Clone Saga stuff still, and they were wrapping up Clone Saga by then. So yeah, but
Yeah,
one
but
of
I
my
think
favorite
that
moments. Yeah,
I was gonna say I think at that time didn't they reveal that Ben Riley was actually the real
the real
Spider-Man?
deal by that point, but by the time of their writing on it, they were already winding down the Clone Saga and heading into Revelation soon.
Yeah, because I
But I
mean
would say
that
that
whole thing
yeah,
was a mess too.
one of my favorite moments though is when you have Ben. Although he has the Peter hair, he's not a blonde. It's flirting with Lois, and then eventually he's like, "I think my fiance would have a thing to say." And then there's Clark towering over him, and Ben's like, yeah, gotta go." You remember that? Just that whole like, engaged to me. Oh, yikes! That's the idea of Clark just towering right over Peter like that. And yeah,
Yeah,
not Superman, Clark.
there was a lot of uh, funky writing
Mm.
in there. I'll just
Yep,
say that.
but here's something else I would say is the other thing that bothers me the most is how many times you see the usual suspects saying stuff like, "Oh, why did they do new characters? We give them a chance if they were new characters." As soon as Naomi was introduced and or was announced, "Oh, it's Riri 2.0. Well, it's going to be shit." Like, but she's an original character. I don't care. It's made by Bender. She's going to be a Mary Sue. We're not going. It's like, but didn't you guys say you give it another chance? If it was a replacement character, I'd understand. But she's a brand new, completely original character, no ties to.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. There's no such thing
Mm.
as an original character anymore.
You know what I mean by that? Is it not replacing a character? Is what I mean by an original character.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is any character, even if they're not replacing someone, you can go, well, that has the same powers as this character. That has the same
Oh,
backstory as
very
this
much
character.
so.
I
Like
mean,
her
there's no
abilities
original
are, yeah,
idea.
very much her powers are like Captain Marvel s powers. I mean, Carol, Captain Marvel powers,
Yeah, so I
and
mean,
yeah,
I'm
but
not really well versed in DC, so I can't speak on this particular character, but I do know like when they bring out new characters, they brought out what Safe Space and
no,
Snowflake
that was Yeah, that was Marvel. That was at
Marvel,
Marvel.
and they attacked those characters. And I said, wait a minute, regardless of the
Well,
names being funny or the names being tongue in cheek, you said, like you said, you wanted new characters. These two are new characters, and you're already shitting on them before they even debuted.
yep. Now, to be fair, the backlash came from both sides in that regard. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
well, it should have
exactly.
only
Though
came from one side. Yeah,
yeah,
the quote
they keep on
unquote
saying we'll
right.
give them we'll give them a chance. We'll see them and how when they come out, but they don't even give them a chance. They already feel like, oh, it's going to suck, or like the stuff with John Kent. He's still relatively new, like about 6 years old. That's yeah, and the majority of the time was when he was a kid. So when I see people saying, "Oh, if they want to make him gay, why didn't they do it from the beginning?" Yeah, I mean when he was 9. You want a 9-year-old to know that he's gay and be all gay, gayish in your face about it. You guys would have complained about that then. Don't give me that shit.
I think a lot of these people they don't understand. They're not gay. They're not gay,
Oh yeah.
bisexual,
Oh, I'm not
whatever.
either. But
So they just like they're like, well, I was always straight, so I don't understand why this character wasn't always gay or this character wasn't always bi.
I mean, I
It's a
would
different
say
experience.
I'm not fully against Tim Drake being made bi. I just did not like how they just pushed aside Stephanie and everything just to do it, for that. Just felt a little bit like this is coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I think that just speaks to the writing. I mean,
Yeah.
you could say, you know what, I don't like the way they've handled this. I don't like the way they wrote
Oh
it.
yeah.
But just to be like, I don't like it because he's gay.
Yeah,
And even
exactly.
if they
That's
wrote
what
it
the
well,
problem.
it would be
Uh,
better.
exactly. I mean, now Tavia in the comments makes a good point that he's still ticked off, and that was the aging of John Kent. And I will agree that's always going to stick in a lot of people's craw. Rightfully so. That was stupid. Sorry. That was a bad belch. Yeah, that was stupid on Bendis's part. All this so he can then have it be that turns out just by suggesting, why don't we form a United Nations of alien world? Just suggestion, not doing the work. Oh, he's going to be the great person that the Legion of Superheroes looked up to. Forget about his dad. John's the real Superman. Superman is just holding the title until John takes it. When Bendis was doing that crap, I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you, with you, Brian? What the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you could be very upset about the writing, the direction of
Yeah.
the story, but
Oh
just
yeah,
the
agreed.
existence of the character is kind of. I mean, just
That's what
go
they're
along for
getting.
the ride.
That's where they're getting at it. It's when they complain about, yeah, like we're both just saying. I would agree. If the writing was atrocious, I'd say that's a problem with the writing. When they say, "Oh, it's bad because they of what they did to the character," it's like, no, it's not. Now, you could have them hand in hand, like the bad writing was brought about by them making that change and doing it poorly, but you cannot put it squarely on because of that change.
Yeah, exactly. And I see that your boy, what
Yep.
Taya,
Yep.
he's saying that I don't know exactly what happened with John Kent. Like I said, I don't keep
Oh,
up with DC comics,
yeah.
but I
Basically, I
imagine
like it. Yeah. Sorry.
I was say I imagine they wanted him to be older, and they just uh, poorly went about how
Horrible.
he's
He was abducted first by his an already established insane grandfather. Yeah, Jor-El was brought back and he was shown to have already been batshit insane. But he shows up saying, "Oh, I need to take your son so he can probably learn the Kryptonian ways." Just out of the blue, even though, and they trust him on this. Then he loses him on Earth 3 for a good number of years, where he's ages normally, but he's stuck. But time is moving faster there. He's kept in a volcano or Red Sun something by Ultraman for a good number of years, tortured until he finally gets his way out, makes his way back to his parents, and then he goes to the future with the Legion of Superheroes to learn how he's destined to be Superman, and his father's going to die and all that stuff, and oh, he's going to make out with Saturn Girl, and just so many stuff to try and do all this stuff, and Peter Tomasi was not a fan at all.
yeah. I mean that sounds terrible just in execution.
Yeah, I mean, just so much of it was done, and unfortunately, but here's the worst part. Unfortunately, sales for Bendis' stuff barely eked past Super Sons, where you had kid John and everything. So unfortunately, in their eyes, that means there are more people who want adult John than there are that want kid John.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can understand people wanting adult John, but like you said, they probably didn't want him to get there the way that they brought up.
Exactly. They just sped it up there, and then eventually now they're revealing, oh, he's gay and everything, or sorry, he's bi. Oh, and do not get me started. The one thing that always pisses me off when I hear people say, "Oh, they say like, well, he's bi, he swings both ways." Oh no, when they say bi, they mean he's gay. What? Do you guys not know how bisexuality works? And most of them don't.
Yeah,
Most of
I
them.
think they just they think that it's a transitional phase. Like, well, they're gonna ease
Oh,
it in. He's gonna be bi, and then a couple years will go by, and he'll just be gay, and then
or they think it's, oh, they say he's bi, but they really are just saying that to shut everyone up. But we know what it really means. It means they're only going to keep him with dudes.
yeah,
And it's like, no, John Constantine's openly bisexual for a long time, and he's been both sides. They made a joke about him with Killer Croc, for Christ's sake.
it's funny because I really don't care who my superheroes are dating.
Oh, I don't, to a degree. Depending on, of course, if the character's a complete bitch or bastard, then yeah, I'm going to care. But
Yeah,
that's about the
I mean,
character, not.
yeah, exactly. It's about the character. It's not about their sexuality. The people that
Yeah.
complain the most are usually the ones that like we don't want to hear about this stuff. We don't care. Well, then
Oh,
if you
yeah.
don't care, why are you complaining?
Yeah, and the other thing that bothers me is, I'm going to show you an example of, I've worked on my own characters. I've been having a bunch of stuff that I want to get off the ground someday. And one of the things that totally gets me worried is that I have, hold on, I'm going to show you a group of characters I have. They're called the Redeemers. You're aware of the Runaways, right?
Yeah,
Basically, they're what if the Runaways actually became heroes? Not the Young Avengers, but you know what I mean. And they weren't entitled brats. I'm sorry. There's times the Runaways drive me nuts. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You gotta. There are times where they are so poorly written. Hold
Yeah,
on.
I mean, they were all spoiled rich kids anyway.
Yep. There they are. Now, the two you see in the middle, that's Minerva and Brian, aka Brainy. And yeah, a lot of times those two are a couple, but and the two on the far left, that's Ahai or Alex and Abby. And they could be a couple, but there is a point where I do have, because Abby is bi. Now, funny thing is, she doesn't realize she's bi. So when she realized, because the way I've seen it is, she growing up never met a girl like Minerva at all. And now she's had a liking for boys, but when she sees Minerva, she's completely like head over heels in love with her. I mean, hold on, let me give another image of Minerva.
So it's like when some dudes see Johnny Depp.
Yeah, but yeah, you see, seeing a girl like her. Yeah, can you blame her for falling for a girl like that? But
I couldn't do it.
yeah, but eventually, then to the point where Abby, she's an alien. She's an alien through and through. Hold on, where's the image of that? Here's her alien form. And at one point, she seemingly dies. It turns out, though, The way she died, she's put through more of a death-like state. And then during it, but it's long enough that people throw a funeral for her and all that. And Minerva is a complete emotional wreck. But that's because she was good friends with her and all that stuff. But then within a few weeks after, within a week or so after Abby's death, she's back. She's alive again. And during that point, because it happened, the way I see it, because it happened so fast, because Minerva didn't have a chance to come to grips with the emotions, and then she's so overjoyed to see Abby back, she mistakes her feelings for love. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those
I
type
want
of
to say what's
things.
up to my boy Wiley. Wiley's in the chat there.
Hey, yeah, and eventually, at least, well, a moment like this, my friend calls "back off, she's mine." It's meant to be a cute moment, but that's something that would actually happen in canon. But but yeah, basically, we would have moments like that, or this was a joke back when we were having in crossover with DC Black Lanterns, but stuff like that, and eventually, but eventually, those things would calm down. They would have a relationship, a pretty active one. But within a couple of months and all that, going on almost a year, Abby's still feeling like, cause she was in love with Minerva, so she's feeling all these proper emotions and all that. But Minerva is starting to realize, wait, what if like she's conflicted. She's completely conflicted now. Now she's like, do I love Abby? Do I love Brian? Do I, am I that way, swinging that way, or was I curious? I mean, stuff like that. And eventually that does come to a head. And most of the time, I would be she does go back to Brian and Abby goes back to AI. But it could also go to her where the two stay together. It's still up in the air. Again, mostly leaning towards that. But the one thing I'm always afraid of is being accused of queer baiting and all that. And it's like, no, I want to take this very seriously, play it up. But there's always going to be people who will be like, oh, you set this up and then took it away from us. It's like, it's matching the characters. I'm not going to cater to your ship just because you wanted to stay this way.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't worry about people claiming things. People are going to claim things all the time. Just do
Yeah.
you. Do what you want to do. Write the way you
Yeah.
want to write.
Yep, but that's the other thing I'm afraid of, though. I'm not afraid of it, but that's going to annoy me, I should say. When I see these people in this comments, like all these other communities making those statements, and eventually be like, what are you guys going to say about me when I do this, eventually? Are you guys going to claim me wanting to cater to the woke crowd and all that stuff, even though there's stuff I've had in my head for a long time?
Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't even worry about it. I mean, I see
Yeah.
so many people on Reddit making threads saying, I'm a white person. I want to have black characters. I'm afraid that people are going to say I'm not allowed to write black characters. I'm like, just write whatever you want to write. Draw what you want to draw. Do
Yeah.
you? Don't worry about it.
And that is very true, and that's one thing I have considered. That's most of my mindset going forward, but it does crop up, is what I'm saying. Like I'm one of those who's willing to plow through and like I don't care. I'm gonna have a bunch of these different ethnicity characters, and I'm gonna write them to the best I am able to. And the thing is, though, I'm going to write them as characters first that just happen to be Asian, black, whatever. And there might be some cases where, like that one of the guys you saw in the group, the muscle guy, Mikey, he is very Mexican, even though he was raised in Texas. But a lot of times he openly admits he puts on this bravado of being a complete Mexican. But even says like, this is how we do down south. You were born in Austin. Yeah, well, still, like he's that type. You know what I mean, right? That type was like, you catch him off, but he just brushes it off like, whatever.
That sounds accurate.
Yeah. And, now his parents, on the other hand, very Mexican, very much Mexican. Because basically, much like the Runaways, their parents are all villains. So his parents were a bunch of these muscle bound, like lucha libre types as bodyguards for Minerva's parents, who were sorcerers. Yeah, basically, Abby and Minerva are very much Nico and Carolina. You probably have noticed that, right?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, those two are very much based off of those two the most. but I still want to do it differently. And I do feel that though with the Runaways, with Nico and Carolina has been under Rainbow Rowell's run of Runaways was not that well handled. I think it's a case where that does feel like they're more catering to the shippers of that rather than wanting it to actually happen organically. Especially when it gets to the point where they have Zay and Zavin come back, and well, it happened in the very last issue 100. But they set up that Zavin's now evil. It's like, wait, you had to make Zavin evil just so you can ensure Nico Carolina? Really? Again, that's where I have a problem with it. When they demonize, what's the trope? The trope, Ron the Death Eater. You ever heard of that trope? Where they demonize, it's basically they demonize one character that's a part of a ship to the point of making him a full-on villain so they can then make their ship more acceptable. So in other words, they would make Ron a Death Eater just so they can get Harry and Hermione together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just stuff like that. And again, are there cases of creators catering to the toxic crowd? Oh yeah. I'd say Ruby has become guilty of that when they cater to the shippers of that show to the point where they kind of have to rewrite the stories and almost railroad some things, or having to deal with the reaction that come. Like they decided to cater to the Bumblebee shipper. I don't know if you know about Ruby. Do you?
No.
Okay, Ruby is this show by this this website called Rooster Teeth. They did the Red versus Blue show. Did you ever hear of that?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, same guys. And two of the characters are named Blake and Yang. And for a while, it just seemed like there was a nice stuff going between them. They would have a good friendship that came off a little flirty, but nothing too much. But good Lord, you get the big Bumblebee shippers. That's what they call them because they're yellow and black representing their colors. And then eventually, they started more leaning towards it. Nothing's become concrete yet, but it's becoming more and more likely. But then there's a point where in the more recent volumes, they are separated. They've been separated for a while. And it's been showing, at least on Blake's side, that she's really worrying for Yang. And then once they finally reunite, one of them, I forget which side, it's been a while since I rewatched the recent episodes, is bringing back someone who's severely hurt. I think it was Penny, who's a robot. And they bring her back. She's severely hurt. Everyone's worried. And yet, what were the shippers worrying about? Why didn't they kiss right then and there? They're finally reunited. Have them kiss. And other people are saying, like the more reasonable shippers are saying, not the time and place we want their first kiss to happen, guys. And others even more so saying, quit for wanting to have every moment to be a shipping moment for you guys when it doesn't make sense. I mean, come on, wouldn't you agree? That is the worst place to have a first kiss.
Yeah, shippers are the worst. Shippers.
Well, they die-hard shippers. I mean, I'm a shipper, but I'm not like my shipper, nothing else.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't
Bianca.
I might see something and go, I know where they're going with this, or I know where they're leaning. But it's never like, oh my God, this has to happen, or
Now, Bianca brings up a point about Adventure Time. The creator said Finn and 13-year-old Bubblegum were supposed to be endgame. True, but I think that kind of falls into the case where they didn't realize just how well they wrote the chemistry between Marceline and Bubblegum. Which can happen. That's a case where that can happen, where you don't realize you came up with such a good character or such a good relationship. It's kind of like the Zuko Katara stuff. You know what I mean? In Avatar.
Yeah.
You ever seen?
Or like the Ali and what the hell's her name on Arrow?
Ali and what? Yeah. Yeah, you never know that until it happens, and then the big question is, do you stick to your guns like Avatar did, or do you do what they did with Korra and eventually go with Korrasami, which I gotta admit, that's another case where I thought, here's the funny thing is, I was thinking, they're never going to do it, but I felt like there was something between them, even in the earlier part, I'm like, these two are so good together. They're either like sisters or they feel more so. The acting really helped with that. And then come the last episode, they're together and now at the very end. And I'm like, bravo, I did not see that coming. I thought there was no way they let you do it. And they saved it for the last shot. So I'm like, okay, I have nothing against that. Now, there are people who have their own issues with Korra, I admit. But when they complain about saying, they jump into a bunch of lesbians, ugh. And don't get me started on the stuff in that Dark Knights of Steel. I'm pretty sure you've seen the tweets everywhere. They're now saying, "Oh, they're making every character gay." It's like that Wonder Woman there is from an alternate universe with a character that's not even Supergirl technically.
Yeah, I mean, Wonder Woman's always been. She grew up on an island with women. I think everybody's always assumed she had some sort of.
Bisexual
Yeah,
tendencies, at least. I mean, I agree with that. That's what I've always said was that look at who her creators were, and then look at who what just in general what her circumstances of her stuff. Everyone's saying she's always been straight. Okay, I always looked at more she has a preference for men because here's why I say this: you're on an like you said, she's on an island full of women. You're going to have urges. Now, are they going to be you can act upon those urges? Now, they're going to rely on something romantic. It doesn't have to. Sometimes sex could just be the physical part. No hang-ups.
yeah. Friends with
But
benefits, islands with benefits.
exactly. Now, can there be romance and lesbian stuff on the island? Of course there can be. But does that mean Wonder Woman had girlfriends on the island? She very well could have. I don't think she did. Not in the canon one, anyway. I looked at it as like she saw them all as like her sisters and all that. Not obviously literal sisters, but still. And again, friends with benefits, but no more. But she always has the potential to fall in love with another woman, is what I say. She doesn't have the hang-ups of or feeling the tabooness of being with another woman.
Yeah, I would
And I think
imagine.
and I think that's what Greg Rucka was going for. I don't think Greg Rucka was going with the idea of, oh yeah, she's slept with other women. No. Even when Rucka did that, I think he was saying she's open to it.
I'm open to sleeping with women. I agree with Wonder Woman.
Well, but and here's something I'm going to say out loud. I don't think I've said on the show before. I've been personally of the belief of anyone has the potential to be bi. You just need to find the right person that kind of sparks that interest in you. That's why you can always have a case where you have a guy can have a man crush, but nothing more because there's all the other factors that will prevent it from going any further.
They're just prison gay. That's what they call prison gay.
Oh, all right, I don't think that's what I was thinking of, but you get my point, right? It's just one of those where you get that anyone can have that feeling of it. You just need the right spark.
Oh yeah, I
So to,
mean, realistically, you're a kid. You don't know you like girls until you
oh
find
yeah,
that one that you like.
exactly. Could be when you're younger than usual. It could be when you're a lot older. Yeah, I mean, it took me a while to have my first legit real world crush, and when that happened, it kind of happened. I always say it happened a bit too late in my life, so I started puppy dogging her when I was in high school. Yeah, not the right time to get be puppy dogging.
We all
You know
learn
what I
later.
mean? Yeah, but I got better. I got better eventually about it. But again, there's always going to be that chase where that time when that happens. You could also be like someone that's asexual. Could be a person who's never had that spark and might not ever. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's true.
I mean that's how
Uh,
I always look at it. It's that matter of getting that spark. Bianca says, Rebirth. She did have a relationship. She did. I don't recall that. Do you remember which one it was, Bianca? Because I do not.
yeah, I don't read
Uh,
Wonder Woman, so
yeah. But when it comes to stuff like at Marvel, there's a case where Marvel. I do feel like Marvel is more. Here's the big difference between Marvel and DC. DC, especially recently, is more giving a case where we will give someone else the title, like another um, Jackson. Jackson, I forget his last name, but the new Aqualad will be the new Aquaman, and he's gay. Or we're gonna have John Kemp be bisexual. He's the new Superman, but you still have the other Aquaman, Arthur Curry, in another book. You have the original Superman in Action Comics still. They're basically giving you two options. Marvel, on the other hand, is more notorious of saying, here's the change, deal with it, suck it up, you're not getting an alternative. And I
yeah, I don't
feel,
think there's a problem with that though. I think ultimately it is their IP. It's their choice.
oh no, I get that on their side. I'm saying that though with how being respectful to the fans and giving them an option, I think it's a lot better than simply telling them to screw off.
Yeah, what I'm saying, I don't. Even if they're telling me to screw off, I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
their prerogative. They're allowed to do it. We're not
Yeah.
entitled. I think a lot of people are
Oh,
think that I own the character because I read it so long, and
oh,
they should
I
change
agree.
it to
I
me.
agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. They should not be doing that. Uh, Now, are there other cases where you can be upset that they're taking a character in a different direction you don't like, and they just happen to have made changes? Like for me, Doctor Who. I do not mind Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. I do not at all. But I do, and I have to say, the writing has suffered, and a lot of the retcons have been atrocious. Especially the Timeless Child stuff, where they revealed, oh, turns out the first Doctor wasn't really the first Doctor. There's been dozens of Doctors beforehand. Oh, and the Doctor's first form was a little black girl who got tortured, and then turns out she's the reason why Time Lords can regenerate. They stole it from her after putting her through so many, killing her off basically so many times for her to regenerate so they can study it.
Yeah, I'm not a big Doctor Who fan, so
Yeah, but if
I don't
you gotta
mind.
admit though, that does sound stupid, right?
Yeah, just from hearing it, it sounds really really dumb.
And again, you're changing so much. And the funny thing is, like, you do realize even if you ever be that they had a bunch like a black female doctor, eventually she becomes a whole bunch of white doctors, white male doctors. No matter what you do, you can't avoid that.
Yeah,
That
I
is a
think
fair point.
people.
Like, no matter what you do, you cannot avoid that simple fact that eventually you got 12 incarnations of the doctor being nothing but a white male.
Yeah, I think people take things personally. They change the character, so it's a personal attack on me. And of
Oh, yeah,
course,
I
like you
agree.
said, with the people online egging them on, making videos, telling them that
Hmm.
the,
Yeah,
the
the Easter
creator hates
folks.
you. They're
Yeah.
going after you. That's what really fuels all this hate, all this anger.
Oh, good God. Yes, I agree completely. It's just so many times when they say they are after you and they hate you. And I'm just like, I don't look at it that way. Like, I may look at them. Here's what I say I'd rather look at the creators who are lashing out as being ignorant. Like, because I've talked to a bunch of these people. What really showed me this was back in the early days of Comicsgate. I actually had a back and forth tweeting stuff with Tamara Bonvillain. I think I've been blocked by her and blockchained by her recently, but at that time, this was when still not long after the man in the wig stuff from your boy Zach and everything. And I was just talking back and forth, and eventually I said, I don't think your boy Zach is actually telling people to go after you and your friends. And she openly admits, yeah, I know what. I don't think I admit he's not doing it intentionally, but I wish he would rein them in. And I'm like, oh, that I would agree, but you got to admit the call of personality. I bet you if he did tell him, there's not much he can do. And she was like, yeah. But the fact that she and I came to that agreement in that moment, now granted, she would eventually get riled up again later on by someone else. But the fact that me having a civil conversation with her tells me these people can be reasoned with, and they are not as stupid as you think so long as you're not going in on the attack. That's what
Yeah,
my issue is. It's the ones who want to go in and feel like, I'm going to go right up to that person. I mean, here's what I compare them to. And since you're a Marvel guy, you know this. Most of these people think they're going to be like the guy who went up to Rob Liefeld and gave him a copy of How to Draw the Marvel Way and said, maybe you should read it.
yeah,
Perfect example, right? They think they're going to be like that, but they think they're going to be like the guy who's like, everyone's going to be giving him pats on the back and all that. And yeah, it's like, no, everyone's going to think you're an asshole.
yeah, definitely. And the cult of personalities around certain people.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Again, I was discussing this last night, and I said, you know, they know what they're doing. They know
mm-hmm.
by demonizing someone that people will attack that person. If I demonized you and I said, "Oh, this guy's terrible. He's horrible. He hates you. He hates your family.
You
He
don't have
hates
to
your
say go
children."
get them. You don't have to say go get them, but they'll go do it on your behalf.
Right, and then you just say, "Oh, but I don't want you to attack him. I've
Oh
just told
yeah.
you that this person is literally the worst person ever, but don't attack him because that's
Uh,
dangerous legally." When one of
or
their crazy fans does something, they say, "Well, I told them not to do that. I don't know why they went and did that.
this is
That's
why I
against the
say your
law."
boy Zach. This is why I say your boy Zach. In the early days, I kind of give him a little, not a full pass, but a little bit, because I do feel like he's just saying the stuff. And there were times where he's more just saying it in that voice of his that comes off like a, "Hey, this is how I feel about them. I don't like what they're doing and saying." But then in those days, later on as it went on, you would have people like Eason and all that stuff who are like basically all but saying, "Go get them, boys." Like Zach didn't have never gave me that vibe of being intentionally malicious. Do you agree with that, at least, that he never gives you that vibe that he's doing it with the intent on riling them up just to go do it? At
No,
least in
I
his
think
early days. I mean, his early days. His early days.
he gave the vibe, but I think it was intentionally giving the vibe. Like he was trying to give you that vibe.
All right,
But
but
I mean,
yeah,
you know, we all know what's gonna happen. Like I said, you know, if I tell you that, hey, uh, if I said, hey, BM really hates you, hates the color of your skin, hates just who you are in a fundamental level. I know what that's gonna make you do. You're gonna be like, now I hate that person back, and I want to tell that person that I hate
nah.
them.
If you had just said that, I would. Actually, here's what I would do. I would. It might be in the back of my head, but I would more. I'm the type of person who actually would try and go weed it out first, especially if it's someone I've known a while. I wouldn't just turn. And that's what I would do. I would not turn them on. Well, Thea Wiley. Um, I would not turn on them right, or at least not right away. I would try and figure out what's going on and all that. Now, if the person said something that kind of in my mind would add up, and I'd be like, wait, and I would look in a different way. I won't say who, but I did almost have it with a friend of mine beforehand, and I almost did turn on them. But then eventually I was able to calm down, realize, wait, looking at it in the other context of what the context I knew about, I'm realizing, yeah, their context is way off.
Yeah, but
But
now
again,
imagine if you're talking to 1,000 people, ten
oh
thousand
yeah,
people. So maybe 99% of your audience will say, "Oh, I'm full of it. He doesn't mean that." The
mm-hmm.
1% is all you need. All you need is one crazy person.
Yeah, you're right. For them to at least get the attention, and then you go look at the stuff, and then you read it without the other person to defend themselves, and then you're like, oh, what? No, they did not.
Yep. And a
Yeah,
lot of these
especially when you do it
people,
on live. Especially when you do it live, like a lot of these guys do.
and then they use that. They'll go back and say, "Well, look at what this creator said. The
Oh,
creator attacked his fan because the fan just
uh,
voiced their
and they hold
opinion."
on to that for years. That was
Yeah.
another thing that made me lose so much interest. Was there was a point where you had Yellow Flash keeps on bringing up this screenshot from a DM he had with Scott Snyder, and that was from two. It was 2 years prior, and he still say like, "Never trust, never trust." I'm like, yeah, dude. So in your eyes, these people can never change, never improve. And
Well,
then
because
you
if they,
also have an. Oh,
as I
go
said, if
ahead.
they change or if they improve, then you can't hate them anymore. You can't be
Exactly.
angry at them.
And then here's another big one I also stick with was when and when yeah, Mangold, the guy who's doing the Indiana Jones stuff, he comes about a bit aggressively, I admit, but he comes about trying to correct a few person's tweets on a few facts about it, and about Indiana Jones 5, and then eventually you have everyone ganging up on him. Now, granted, again, his phrasing was I didn't care for, saying basement dwellers and all that, but eventually, though, he asked, I was correcting a lot of the issues, I mean, the mistakes. Did you guys just want me to shut up and let you guys keep on moving the lies? And majority of them were saying, yes, you should have. And that's how they feel. They feel like, don't correct us. And that goes back to stuff with Kevin Smith and Clownfish. I really think that, in my own theory, I think the reason why so many of these people are bashing on Kevin and all this stuff is because he dare prove, disprove their claims that their insider was having, and that's why they want to make sure we got to make sure when it comes out, we got to spin it no matter what it happens, so that it looks like Clownfish was always right. Because how dare he talk smack about them?
You mean they're fake insiders? They're insiders that don't exist, only in their head.
Yeah. Yeah, or if they do have it, they're like not as high up as the food chain as they claim.
I doubt any of these people have true insiders. I could just claim I have an insider. I have an insider that told me
True. Well, I will say this though: with the stuff they
Batman's going to
got,
be gay. Right?
I'll
That's
say
my
this,
insider.
the stuff they got was revelations. I wouldn't say it was all 100% wrong, but you can see where the misunderstandings came from. So you gotta admit there was at least someone there who just spun it in a bad way.
Well, you know who Nostradamus is, right?
Yep.
Okay, he made so many predictions, but no one looks at his totality. They just go, see these three that were correct? Obviously,
Very
he
true.
saw the future.
Very true. And whereas I like to say a broken clock is right twice a day.
Right. So if you actually go back and start looking at all the claims that they've made about Kevin
Oh yeah.
Smith and He-Man, you go, wow, they made like 50 claims and like two of them were sort of kind of correct.
Close. Yeah, but then others were so way off, like saying, "Oh, Tila is going to be the new champion and all that," or "Allura is going to be the new champion." And then I saw someone then tell me that, um, "Oh, they got it right. Someone was going to gain the power of He-Man. They just picked the wrong girl." It's like that doesn't make what they said right.
Well, no, see, you know what it is. What happened was there was so much backlash online that they actually changed it. That's why they separated the two
That's
seasons.
what they want to say, but it's like they already made clear everything was locked in, and that's too short of a time to do the animation to completely redo the episodes.
Oh, but you don't understand the power of Clownfish. He was so right, and the backlash was so strong that they worked around the clock, Robert. They were
Oh
there
yeah.
night and day redrawing.
Oh boy, yeah, the fact that these people they feel like, oh, we live in their heads. No, they live in your heads, guys.
Yeah,
Now,
they don't know
uh,
who these people are. I can guarantee most of these creators
now
have no idea who
I
they are.
will say this though, I did kind of notice that Kevin Smith, like there was a time when he did some Facebook tweets and comments a while during while he was shooting Clerks 3. You can still tell he was having a mental breakdown, and I do think a lot of it was because of the reactions from Revelations. But more from the fact that like, why are they just ganging up on me like this when I did everything right? And yet, I have a feeling that if anything had happened to Kevin, if they had pushed him over the edge, they would not have cared. They would have been like, he brought it on himself. We didn't do anything wrong. Or,
They would have said it was guilt. It was guilt for what he did to He-Man. Don't you understand?
yeah, something else is like, but you guys will complain Zoe Quinn for doing what she did. And yet, it's this whole double standard of, oh, we must demonize these Democrats, but this Republican that's actually wanting to ban a bunch of these books, including Why the Last Man. Oh, I see nothing wrong with that.
It's all team sports, team politics. But
And
I'll
it,
tell you what, Robert.
mm-hmm,
I had that little back and forth with Ripa online.
mm-hmm,
Do you know that no one in my family's mentioned that to me?
really,
No
I
one
am not.
at my job has mentioned that to me. I went to the
Mm-hmm.
store and there wasn't a single person at the store talking about it.
Exactly, because once you leave it all, it's gone from there. Unless these people are the type who will go out and call your job.
That their influence extends no further than the internet. They have no real
Yeah.
power, no actual.
Yep.
I
Ay,
think
ay,
once we
ay, ay.
realize that, we could just kind of ignore them. You got to attack the point and not the person. I mean,
Oh, that's
yeah,
what I'm trying to do.
some of these people are really terrible, but I don't like to name them. You know what? I say I'm not going to name you. I'm just going to say what you said, and I'm going to attack it. I'm going to show you why you're wrong, and
Exactly.
do my thing.
Exactly. And that's what I try to do as well when I can is try and just point them out, saying how wrong it is. And sometimes I do get a little into a back and forth with some people, and eventually I'm like, you know what? It's clear you're not listening to me. Goodbye, and that's it. Because these people just want to hold on to their anger. They just want to hold on to this hatred for some reason. They don't want to admit it. And the guy's like, here's the thing I've realized we've reached. We've reached a point where these people, Hollywood can come up with some of the best stuff. They can finally get rid of everything, but they can't handle it. They need to hate on everything now. They're getting such more enjoyment, such more of a dopamine kick from hating on this stuff and being outraged that they can't go back to enjoying good media.
Yeah, I think they don't even understand what good media is, why they like things originally. They just want to be angry and mad. And,
And
I
just
love
yeah.
Marvel. I love Marvel movies, but I nitpick
Mm-hmm.
the shit out of them. I will sit there and I'll
Oh
tell you
yeah.
what was wrong, but I still love it. I mean, I can enjoy something and still criticize it. These
Oh
people can
yeah.
only criticize; they cannot enjoy. They've
Oh
lost the love.
yeah. Going back to Ripa, the fact that his way of finally something that I hate about WandaVision was saying, "Oh, they didn't bring in Mephisto with the twins, so they're not being faithful," and basically start pushing the whole. It has to be a 1-to-1 adaptation. He was the one. I know it was the one that really started that going, basically demanding 1-for-1. When it's like it's never been 1-for-1. Why are you guys complaining about it now? Oh, because you need something to bitch about.
Yeah, I mean, WandaVision wasn't perfect; it was a decent show.
Yeah,
But I mean, Mephisto,
Mephisto wouldn't have worked. He wouldn't have worked.
right? You can't just bring that into general audiences. Hey, by the way, the devil exists, and here he is.
Yeah. Now, granted, Kane came on a little bit. One you could say like shows that you technically could have done it in the last episode, but at least Kane kind of set up that there was someone that that was above. In the case of WandaVision, they never set up there was some other mysterious force
right?
besides Agatha.
Even in the King stuff, though, in the King stuff, the one above all is not King in the comics. That
Oh
they
yeah.
already changed something. I didn't see anyone complain that King has now become the one left over, the last one, whatever the hell it's called.
Oh yeah, but not the one above all. That was a different name. That the
Yeah,
one above all is God. Just
yeah.
like you have
What the
the one who's below is the devil.
yeah? Who am I thinking of? The last one, the last man.
The
What is
last.
his name?
Yeah, hold
He
on.
who remains.
He who remains. That was it. But that was also one of his names as Immortus.
Yeah, but originally, he who remains was a separate character. It wasn't Immortus,
Right.
and then
Right. But yeah, they
he
combined them. Well,
changed.
technically, Kang and Immortus weren't the same characters, but then they combined them. Just like Ramasan wasn't originally Kang, and then they combined them.
Yeah, so
That's
I
part of the
mean,
reason why Kang was with the Fantastic Four for so long because of Ramasan.
yeah. So I mean, they change things in the MCU. They pick and choose what they want to complain about.
Oh yeah.
How you can complain about something that didn't happen? Like I'm
Yeah.
mad that they didn't do a thing. Like really?
And the funny thing about those, you then look, then you have people complaining about um, Captain Winter Soldier and the Falcon, and that one. All of the different stories they pick and chose, most of them were as close to one in their different elements as you can get in that one. You know, the Captain storyline and some of the other stuff. So much of it that was pick and choose were as close to one, but then blended in with the other story beats.
Yeah, you're never gonna get one to one.
Never, because you can't. You really can't.
No, you really can't. I mean, I was
That
discussing this before. I said I don't even know how they're gonna do the X-Men movie because Magneto would be so old. I mean,
yeah.
being a World War II Holocaust survivor, he'd be like
My only guess is to bring. I do think the multiverse can give him a way to do it. I think you just bring him in from a point earlier in his world, but he's in the present day.
yeah, that would be the only way, or you'd have to change the story. You'd literally have to say, well, he's not a Holocaust survivor. Maybe he's
Which I think
older.
that I think much like the Punisher, it's so hard to just separate them. I mean, at least Cap has the being frozen advantage, but Frank and Magneto do not.
Yeah, I mean, even Iron Man, they changed him from Vietnam. They
No,
made
yeah,
him like
Tony, you can shift it. Tony can shift it, but even if you change Frank to Afghanistan, it doesn't have the same emotional stuff, mental torture that Nam did. Now, in the comics, I know this is going to get a bit fanboyish, but there is a way around it in the comics. Technically, when he became Frankencastle and all that, and then he rejuvenated at the end, he's in a new rejuvenated body.
yeah, that's
So
also
technically, you can say yes, he was from Nam, but there was a point where he got rejuvenated. You don't even have to say Frankencastle. You just simply say a storyline where he got rejuvenated. Bada bing, bada boom. No more need to worry.
I think in the TV show, didn't they say Frank Castle was in Afghanistan or some
I
unnamed?
There's that, and then I remember in the Thomas Jane movie, they tried to have it be uh, the Gulf or Korea or
Yeah, I
something,
mean,
something like that. But
as much
again, a
as I
lot of it
like,
doesn't. Yeah.
as I say, as much as I like Marvel, I think putting them in the real world with real world events tied to
Oh
like that
yeah.
date kind of hurts them.
Big time, big time. I mean, you had the fact that technically Reed Richards and Ben fought in World War II. They had to drop that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's the sliding time. Again, the sliding time scale works 90% of the times, but then again, you have some of those where you just can't shake them, drop them from the stuff. Again, Magneto was World War II. You can't get rid of that. There's no other moment like that where you could have it be where he can develop, where you can be sympathetic to him as a character. Any other time you wouldn't be sympathetic if it was any other case.
yeah, exactly. So that unless they say that he was teleported to the future or comes from
Which there's a
another
possibility.
reality.
That is a possibility. Or, the other way they can do it is make him a baby and make him grow, then re-age. They Chris Claremont had that stay canon. Remember that? He did keep him that canon.
Yeah, that is true.
And that was a big part of his last arc was Jim Lee, that first 3 issues where he thought that his mind was altered by Moira. Turned out it wasn't, and it was, but then it got it didn't last that long.
Didn't he also have like a clone or something of him?
Oh yeah,
In
oh
that first
Joseph, yes. And eventually he popped up again at some point.
Yeah. Now he's like a
Yeah.
villain called Holocaust or something. They do all
Oh
kinds
no,
of
no,
weird stuff.
Holocaust was something separate and altogether. Holocaust is that big. It was what
Oh,
well,
okay.
Holocaust I think was an alternate version of Proteus. I think in the Age of Apocalypse universe.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
There's just so
but
much that is like, oh my god.
oh, there is so much. I'll just simply say this. The funny thing is, though, is as much as I love DC, Marvel has a lot of some of my favorite female characters, like Black Cat, Jubilee, and all that. I mean, Jubilee is my favorite X Men because she was, she was the audience surrogate during the first episode of the show.
Yeah.
Also, like I said, those who are complaining about Allison Court not doing Jubilee, she said long ago she was never going to do it. So they're complaining about saying, "Oh, it's like it's her own choice, guys."
She has to
Now,
do it.
here's
Fans
the question: do
demand
you
it.
think if she hadn't said that, though, do you think they would have still kept her in the role? Or do you think they would have told her, "No, you're not,"
Well, obviously, if she wanted to do it, they would have kept her. I think.
even though she's doing an Asian American? Do you think they would have?
Mm,
That's
that's a
the
good point.
question. That's the reason why she says she doesn't want to do it. She'd rather have another Asian, a proper Asian American doing the role. And now, to be fair, one else has to wonder. Even though she was saying this years before they announced this, was she saying this in a more realistic, like, as much as I'd love to, it's never going to happen, so I'd rather just say it now, or does she really believe it? It's hard to tell with Hollywood actors what they really believe and how much of it is them more saying it just to save their own necks.
Yeah, that's true. I think maybe there was a belief that the show is never coming back, so why even
Yeah,
try to
but then
keep her
once
like
it came
this?
through, once they announced it, she decided, but now she's still doing some other roles, she's just not doing Jubilee. Which I say, as long as they get a good actress doing it. Although it'd be funny, my other favorite voice for Jubilee was oh, what was her name? She's Winnie and Danica McKellar when she did her in X Men Legends.
Yeah, I
But then
mean,
again, Winnie was always was my first celebrity crush. So
was she? That was my brother's first crush.
yeah,
I
that
had a
was
thing for my first crush was Amy Jo Johnson from Power
oh,
Rangers.
oh, hey, loved her too, of course. But yeah, but I mean, Dana McKellar, not a bad job doing Jubilee, and I always would play as that character during that game. Um, but and I gotta say this: when it comes to the roles must be matching the actors. I say that's a bit of a divisive, take. You know what I mean? Sometimes it is, but then when you have it be done, these races have to do the minority races, but we can totally change a white person. It's like that's where I get into the whole. Okay, you guys can't have it both ways. If you do that, then that's not very, you know what I
Yeah,
mean, right? You know what I mean? It's like it's when
I
they,
do.
yeah. Like I will say this: when people say, "Oh, race betting never works," Michael Clark Duncan is Kingpin.
Yeah,
Prove
he
me
did a
wrong.
fantastic job in that.
Yeah, he did a
What about
phenomenal.
in Wanted in the movie Wanted? Angelina Jolie.
Oh yeah, that was
She
a
was a
gender
race
bend.
bend. No, but she was a race bend too. Wasn't
Oh
the
yeah,
character that she played black in the comics?
I don't recall actually, to be honest. I've seen Wanted long ago, and then I read the comics even longer.
Yeah, I'm like 90% sure, and no one even batted an eye because she plays Fox.
Yeah, I think that's because though that was most people didn't even realize that was based on comics, and those that did, this was at the point when Millar was more notorious for his shock value.
Yeah, but I'm saying it still worked. She
Oh
did
yeah,
a
it still worked. Oh no, it still worked. Yeah, and I'll say this: Idris Elba as Heimdall worked, and now that was the case though, where of course you had a director who was more looking at this from a Shakespearean point of view, where it didn't matter what the race was.
Yeah, I think I'm going to disagree. I think Idris Elba was
Oh
wasted
no, he was
as Heimdall.
wasted, but he was good in the role regardless. He was wasted, but he was still good in the role.
I think Idris Elba should have played the scientist. They should have got someone else to play Heimdall.
Okay, that's fair. That is perfectly fair. That is perfectly fair. Um,
And not because of anything, but because Idris Elba is a good actor and he needed
oh,
something more substantial to
him
keep
as
the people.
Knuckles. Him as Knuckles currently is awesome.
Yeah, I mean they did flesh out Hemdall more in the third Thor movie. He had more
Before they killed
backstory.
him.
Yeah, but in the first two, he was basically just, hey, look, there's Hemdall. He's there. Bye.
True. That is true. That is very true. But you cannot deny his presence. And he really gave the presence of Heimdall and made you remember him.
Oh yeah, I mean because Idris Elba, he's a very memorable individual.
Now, if you want a role that I feel he was wasted in, Star Trek Beyond, I feel he was definitely wasted in that one.
I'm not
I
a
love
big
Star Trek.
Star
I
Trek
love
fan.
Star Trek Beyond. Oh, all right, but again, there's just so much I could both I can complain about, but also I can agree with. When I see people complain, it all depends on. And here's the thing: I hate broad stroking. I hate saying, "Oh, I'm going to hate it when it's this and that." I'm like, no, I'm going to judge everything on a case by case basis, and that's how I think it should be. You should always judge things like, how is it in this case? Okay, like looking at Cowboy Bebop, for example. Let's take. And have you seen the Netflix series?
I seen a couple episodes.
The stuff was Jet. And I think Jen Bartel, she's a comic artist, put it best. In the original anime, he was the only good cop amongst a bunch of corrupt ones, and that made his, leaving have more of a bit political impact, but just had more of an emotional impact to why he left. It was a harder job, and basically made it seem like the bounty hunters have much more better morals than the actual law enforcement. You do the Netflix version, his partner's the only rotten cop, and yet he still leaves, and it's like, and they make him a bit more of a deadbeat dad and all this stuff. Forget about him being actually black. Just in general, just the stuff that's done where you're like, you missed the point of the character entirely.
Yeah, I wasn't. I didn't watch the original anime. I wasn't really a fan of it.
All right, but you still get my point there, right? There was more of a character interest in the character in the original. Here, not that much special.
Yeah, just from your explanation, it sounds like they butchered the whole character.
Oh, they butchered him. Faye. Faye was the person who was put in crisis stasis, and in fact, she got screwed because she was given this whole bunch of the person who put her in stasis charged her stupid amount. Now she's hugely in debt with medical bills. But she's also a person who she might have a tough girl act, but deep down, she really doesn't want to be left alone and abandoned. And yet, how did they treat her in the show? Capital G girl boss. Things like that, or I mean, stuff like that. Where again, it's like they took the surface coolness of the characters and ignored everything else, and not because they want to be too political. They actually stripped away a lot of the politics. The
Yeah,
important ones that you would have actually felt something for the characters, and instead replace them with the more shallow ones that are just like, oh, hey, we're current day.
I think it was just a fundamental misunderstanding of what the show was about and what the characters stood for.
Yep, and having
At the end
a
of the day,
yep,
though, here's the thing: at the end of the day, if you're a fan of Cowboy Bebop, the original still
is still out
exists,
there.
right?
Yes.
They didn't like take all the copies, burn it, make it illegal, and say now you have to watch the new one.
That's true. It's not like with Rockstar and it's saying, "Oh, you want to buy GTA 3? You can only buy a definitive edition,
Yeah, I mean, so
or you
when
got
it's all
to
said
pirate
and
it."
done, when it's all said and done, it's okay to not like something. It's okay to be angry that they changed it, but again, they don't owe you. You know, people are like, "Well, they're
Oh
making
yeah,
a Cowboy Bebop. They owe me to make it." No, they don't owe you.
no, they do not. I agree with that. They do not owe you. They now. Do I feel and here's the other thing is every time I hear people say without respect, we reject, and that's the one thing that pisses me off the most is because it's like you guys do not show them respect. Why do you think that you are owed respect?
Well, even that whole statement is so stupid because they don't respect you, and they've
Yeah,
never respected you. They've created something and they want you to consume. They've never created things because they respected you. That whole idea that oh they respect no, they were trying to make
no,
money
yeah.
the whole
But
time.
then at the same time, that it's like we could be assholes to them, but they should hold their tongue with us.
Well, that I sort of agree with. I think they should ignore. They shouldn't
Oh
engage.
no, you
You
should
did pretty much
ignore.
do.
Yeah, but it's when they act like how dare they push back and how dare they, it's like You guys might have really pushed a button on them. Quit acting like you didn't do anything wrong.
Well, yeah, that I agree with it. I mean, the whole "oh my god," I'm a victim now. No, you were an asshole too.
Oh,
Go back. You were both assholes.
you're both assholes. Yeah, I agree with that. And that, again, how many of those screenshots that we see from pros are we showing out of context? And it's like, oh yeah, I pushed all their buttons. They finally responded. Oh guys, never forgive them. Look what they said to me. It's like, yeah, what did you say beforehand? Doesn't matter. Look what they said to me. It does matter. No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
again, I've observed all this stuff, and you want to know the worst part is? I think I've already said it by repeating. I predicted this happening 4 years ago. 4 years ago, four almost five, going on 5 years ago, I predicted most of the stuff happening. So this was going to be the route that they were going to head down, and eventually start becoming more and more like what they are currently. And every time I've been seeing it happen, I am just feeling more and more upset and down. Just like more and more people are becoming what I predicted, and it is just, again, it's heartbreaking. It's depressing seeing all of some of these once good people now starting to be these assholes who rather cater to their confirmation bias demanding uh, viewers.
yeah. Well, because they want to make that money. They're not.
They want to make that
They'll do
money.
whatever it takes. If their audience says they like a gay character, all of a sudden they will agree that the character was written good and it was written well. They want those checks to keep rolling in.
Yep, it's like I said with the stuff with Azura or whatever it is, that new series. Like I said, people are loving it. They're actually judging on its own merit because it came right the heck out of nowhere, and so no one had prepared hatred for it. So anything in there they would complain about, like slightly weaker male characters and all that stuff, they're not seeing it because they weren't told to look for it.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
it's just very, very frustrating because it's like, well, you want a character. They say, well, we don't want the men to be weak. Okay, well, if he's not weak, now he's a Gary Stu. Oh, now he's too perfect. Now the girl's beating up men. Well, it's a comic book movie. What did you want? You want her to fight nothing but other small women or tiny men? All the henchmen
Yeah.
are 4'5" or something.
I don't get these people. I do not get them. They don't know what they want. And that's the funny thing. Also, have you ever noticed they rarely say what they would do if they were in their position, how they wanted something seen. They just simply say, oh, this is crap. Oh, like, well, what'd you do in that? Well, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Oh man, I
What
gotta
was the?
start. Sorry. I was gonna say I gotta start winding up in a little bit, but well, you can finish your last part.
I was gonna say, if you really look at the history of comics, if you go way back, most of what they complain about has been done. It's been done, and no one's batted an eye. No one's ever complained. No one's ever said anything. It's because we existed in a world without YouTube talking heads making
Mm-hmm.
fun of you. Think for
Yep.
yourself, people. Judge things
Yeah.
on your own.
Exactly. And quit retroactively changing your mind on a story just because someone else told you, oh, it's bad. Like, quit dumping on Nightfall just because someone else says Batman should never been replaced. And yet they're not complaining about um, Alan Scott, Hal Jordan, or Barry Allen. They're not the originals.
Yep.
All right.
Uh,
So thank you for coming. Thank you for coming on, Tony. It was great to have you on. I just got a text saying I got to go help my parents out with something, so I got to wrap things up. So,
no
th-
problem. Like
yep.
I said, I can go 5, 6 hours.
Oh yeah, I
I'll have
could
you here all
too.
day.
Yep, I could too. But if it wasn't for this, I have to end early. So thank you so much. Thank you anyone for sticking around. Anyone who was here earlier. Anyone who's watching this afterwards. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you all in the next one.